We have been really enjoying these slow and just free summer days. I love this time of year when we can just wake up and enjoy the day, even when we don't have any plans or making plans on the whim without having to worry about school or any extra activities. We have been doing a lot of days at the pool and just hanging out and enjoying this beautiful weather. On this particular day, we are visiting a berry farm that is local to our house, and this is one of my favorite things to do in the summertime. Just always reminds me of summer because we do this every year, and they have different berries all throughout the summer, so we can pick strawberries and then blueberries and then cherries, and then there'll be blackberries and peaches later on the summer, and it's just such a fun activity to do with the kids, and then going home and making all the different things. And so on this day, we are picking blueberries and cherries. A couple of my kids wanted blueberries and the rest went straight for the cherries. And while we were there, I was trying to decide all the different things that we can make with our berries. My kids are really funny, and while they're picking them, they're keeping their little containers separate and saying, with mine I'm gonna make, blueberry smoothie, and this one we're gonna make cherry pie, thinking that they're gonna use their exact berries to make each thing. I just let them do that. But obviously when we get home and wash everything and pick the cherries, it all just kind of goes into a big pile, and we make different things that everybody is going to enjoy. While we were picking blueberries and cherries, I heard someone mention that they were going to use their cherries to make a cherry barbecue sauce. I never really even thought about that, but I immediately was like, I am so going to do that, because I remembered that I had that brisket in the refrigerator defrosting, and I was already planning on making that for dinner, and I typically like to make some type of sauce to put over that. And so I was thinking I could use the cherries to make these were very sour tart cherries, so I knew it would be a perfect sweet yet sour sauce for my meat. And so I looked up a recipe and I pretty much followed it exactly. There was a couple of things I had to change just because I didn't have everything on the list of ingredients, so I just kind of switched up a couple things. But I made a cherry barbecue sauce, and after trying just a little bit, I knew it would be so good with this brisket. So for my brisket, I just made a dry rub and seared it on both sides, and then I just poured all of the cherry barbecue sauce over it, and I stuck it in the oven to let it slow cook for a couple of hours. While it was slow cooking, I sliced up some onions and some potatoes. Now, typically I would add some carrots to this, but I didn't have any, so I just did what I had on hand. And then I just added in those veggies for the last hour of baking to let those soften while the meat finished cooking. Now, while our brisket was in the oven, my daughter and I made a cherry pie. This was something that she definitely wanted to make right when she got there and saw that they had cherries. When we went to pick the berries. I thought they only had blueberries, but whenever she saw there was cherries, she was like, I'm making a cherry pie. And so she went straight for the cherries. And she is so funny. She loves to experiment in the kitchen, and she never ever wants to follow any recipe. And I am not a big baker. I'm getting more into it now, mainly because of her, but I don't really follow any recipes when I cook. I typically just kind of eyeball things and make things up as I go. But with baking, I feel like I need to follow a recipe because I'm not a big baker. I don't really know how to make a pie crust or like even what a cherry pie filling is. But she was like, I've done this before. She often bakes with one of her cousins, or I've made pie crust before. I don't want to get any recipes. And so I was looking some up and trying to read them, and she was holding her ears because she didn't want to hear any of the directions, which was just so funny and cute. And she made this pie pretty much by herself, and she did a great job. We made a double crust so she could have one to put in the bottom of the pie pan and then another one to make for lattice on top. Now, when she went to start rolling out her pie crust, she realized that our rolling pin was covered in Play-Doh because some of her little brothers were using the pie or the rolling pin to play with Play-Doh a few days earlier. And she's like, it's fine, I'll just use a glass. So she's used a glass cup to roll out her pie crust. It worked, and she did a good job with this. So we got the pie crust in, then we pitted a couple cups of cherries, added in a little bit of sugar and lemon juice, and got those going on the stove to make some juice. The recipe called for cornstarch to thicken it, but I only had arrowroot powder, so I had some arrowroot powder in, and we thickened it, and she made the lattice. That was her favorite part. She wanted to do it completely by herself. I kept trying to help her, but she wanted to do it by herself, and got that in the oven. And then we decided to make some vanilla ice cream. I had just gotten some milk from my sister that day, so we used the cream off the top of the milk and just added in some sugar and vanilla and made a batch of vanilla ice cream to top the cherry pie with. This meal was so delicious. My husband said it was some of the best meat he has ever eaten, which I took that as a compliment because we eat a lot of meat, and I feel like, we have steaks and different things, and he said it was so good. So I'm definitely going to be making some more of this cherry barbecue sauce. So if you have cherries in your area, if it's cherry picking time, pick some, look up a cherry barbecue sauce recipe. I highly recommend it. All right, so after getting dinner cleaned up, I started a loaf of sourdough bread in my bread machine, and the big plan I had was to make some blueberry French toast with some of our blueberries. So I got the bread going, and I'm gonna have to let this rise overnight, and then in the morning I'll be able to make some blueberry French toast. In the middle of making the French toast casserole, I realized that we only had 3 eggs in here, so I sent one of my kids out to gather some more eggs out of the chicken coop so I could have enough to finish this recipe. I just added in a bunch of eggs and some milk, and then also some cinnamon, a little bit of sugar in the like batter, I guess you would call it. I just sliced and cubed up the sourdough bread that I had just finished baking, put it in a big 9x13 pan, poured the egg mixture over it, and then I take my hands and just push the bread down into the eggs to kind of get it nice and soaked. It would be a good idea to make this the night before and let the bread soak in the egg mixture overnight, but I just made this in the morning, dotted it with butter, and then I poured a bunch of those fresh blueberries that we had just picked the day before, stuck it in the oven, and baked it. Today for lunch, I'm just making some ribeyes on my cast iron skillet with some garlic, rosemary, butter, and I'm also making a sweet potato hash to go with this. I was actually watching one of my old What You Eat in a Week videos, and I know that sounds weird, but I have really changed the way that we cook. We have just gone through several different stages since I started recording What We Eat in a Week videos. So when I very first started recording these, we were on the GAPS diet, so I had a child that had some allergies, and we ate very, I don't know, we had a lot of foods that we had to cut out. We didn't eat any dairy, we couldn't eat any sourdough in the very beginning of my YouTube days because we were still trying to heal my son's gut, and we ate pretty much all just like vegetables and soups and stews and lots of broth. And so I thought it'd be interesting to go back and like see some of the things that I was making when I first started, and then we slowly started adding back in some of these ingredients like dairy and gluten and different things, and now he can tolerate everything. So I just still am cooking from scratch, but just cooking a lot different than we used to. And when I was watching one of my older videos, I saw me making this sweet potato hash. I don't really know what to call it, but I used to make this all the time and I completely forgot about it, and we love it. So I'm like, I am doing this. So instead of just doing regular like red potatoes, I added in sweet potatoes and onions, and then you just do a little bit of avocado oil and some salt and bake it. The extra flavor from the sweet potato and the onion, just it's so good. And so like, I need to remember about this because it's something that I haven't made in a long time, but it's so delicious. Anytime I make steaks, I love to make a herb butter to top them with whenever they're done. So I got some rosemary out of my little herb garden, added it into my butter and minced some garlic, stirred it all up. And then after my steaks are finished, I just take this and put a big hunk on top of each steak, let it melt down on it, and it just adds so much flavor to the steaks. All right, guys, so after lunch, I had to head to the grocery store. It has been a little while, probably since I did a grocery haul on YouTube is the last time that I have personally been to the store. My husband has stopped in here and there to get a few things that we needed just basically for the blog. He doesn't ever do any big grocery shopping trips, but he works out several times a week in the morning, and after his workout, he'll run to the store and get little things that we need, mainly for like blog posts and recipes. But when it's time for a big grocery trip, that is my job, and I love going to the grocery store, and we needed to stock up on all of the things. And so after lunch, I went to the store and got all of the essentials. I mean, we were out of baking things, so I had to get vanilla and cocoa powder, sugar, brown sugar, honey, syrup. We are just out of all of the things. We needed some more butter and potatoes and carrots. I also got some seltzer water and some tart cranberry juice during the summertime. I love drinking these where I just basically fill a cup up with all of just sparkling water and then just a splash or two of cranberry juice. It's so refreshing. And I was at my sister's house the other day and she was having one of those. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that drink. So I got some of those and just different things at the store. So I thought I would just kind of, as I'm putting this away, show you guys the different things that I got. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some great meal inspiration and just enjoyed coming along with us on a summer day of just kind of taking it easy and enjoying the beautiful berries and things that are growing this time of year. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new, please hit that subscribe button. I get out a new video every Friday morning.